Hi, this is Keith Townsend from VirtualizedGeek.com. You're listening to another Virtualized Geek Tech Talk. Today is March the 11th on Monday. I finally got the rotation as tight as possible to Monday. It is actually Monday, so I kept my promise and got it closer into the week for you guys to have discussions throughout the week about our virtualization, cloud computing, and technology talks. Tonight's topic is actually something that's been boiling up in the back of my mind. It's going to be about AWS, OpenStack, and VMware is one topic. Then another topic is something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's certification, specifically the VMware VCP certification. If you read a recent blog post of mine, I had a little diatribe about VMware's course requirements, so we'll talk about that tonight as well. So for tonight's first topic, we'll talk about Amazon recently announced that they have now allowed enterprises or customers in general to automatically create virtual private clouds, VPCs, within their infrastructure. This is obviously an aim at gaining more of the enterprise market. The thought process that I had around this was a pretty good question was, as enterprise SMEs or virtualization experts, how do you view Amazon's AWS service? You know, you look at their offering, they offer a database service, elastic cloud, compute models, different types of storage that's persistent and non-persistent. When I first saw Amazon's service, I'm thinking, oh, wow, that's great. Possibly in the future, I can run one of my enterprise workloads within the Amazon cloud. But when I went to it for the very first time, I was a bit confused. I really didn't understand the concept of non-persistent instances. So you would bring up in my mind, back at the time of using Lotus Notes, I'm thinking, okay, you bring up a Lotus Notes server and you start putting mailboxes and databases on the server. You reboot the server or power down a server, and the state of the server would be gone. Thinking, what possible use would I have that for that in my enterprise workloads? Obviously, I wasn't the target audience for that type of model. That was most definitely for more elastic type compute models, the Netflixes, the Zyngas, the cloud models in the world where you build applications that's around elasticity and the ability to spin up multiple application servers that are very similar, that can be scripted to join a larger pool or a larger cluster of application servers when that need is when that elasticity is no longer needed for the expanded use of those servers. The instances to shrink down to just a couple to maintain the limited demand. Same thing for web servers. So the use case was very different. Now Amazon has kind of outgrown or trying to outgrow that developer community and reach into the enterprise. And my question that kind of first came to mind is that when you look at their product offering, it still doesn't mail to the guy in the data center that needs to decide on whether or not to buy a new Lotus Note server, Exchange servers, application servers in general. We don't have that elastic need in the same sense that Amazon developers have had in the past. Our elasticity comes in the form that we need it in the way that VMware currently gives it to us, or Hyper-V. We have a Exchange server or a mail server that has 100 gig of mail database space, maybe 32 gig of RAM. We determine that that system has too much RAM and we need to shrink it down to 16 gig, or we determine that it has not enough memory and we expand it to 64 gig. So it's elastic in that sense, not elastic in the sense that we need to spin up more mail store database servers for a huge push and then we shrink back. That's not normally how we operate in an enterprise. So that kind of leads to the conversation that AWS is one model positioned towards developers for public cloud. Then you take a look at OpenStack versus VMware. OpenStack is kind of AWS, to oversimplify it, is AWS for the enterprise. You have a storage project, you have a compute project, you have a networking project. It's separate APIs into your infrastructure to control your infrastructure via applications. So the question again comes up: how does the enterprise, who has non-developer type requirements, leverage a solution like OpenStack? So, one of the questions I posted to my Twitter is comparing OpenStack and VMware, comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges. And I think this is most definitely a situation where you're comparing apples to oranges. It's aimed at two different audiences. OpenStack most definitely aimed to a company that's looking to build around cloud applications versus VMware, which is tailoring to a more traditional enterprise network and data center and virtualization SMEs or administrators who are really focused around running the types of applications that we run in our data center today. So I think that's a pretty good comparison between OpenStack, AWS, and VMware. The question is, where does it go long term? Where does VMware start to look more towards providing APIs and access into the infrastructure from applications? And will AWS and OpenStack look more to managing more traditional workloads as both of their solutions mature? The second topic, which is a lot more fun for me to talk about, is the VCP, the VMware Certified Professional, which is the entry-level certification for VMware. Currently requires that you basically take a $3,000 to $5,000 course, depending on your experience level and previous certification levels with VMware. Basically, without taking a VMware-sponsored course, whether it's through one of their academic providers or through one of their traditional training and certification partners, you cannot become a VCP. This is a pretty passionate area for me. Traditionally, I'm a non-traditional IT student. I broke into the field from just pure luck. Back in the 90s, there was a big push for talent for Y2K. Companies were stretched to get talent to do any level IT support, whether it's help desk to IT to Y2K remediation needs. There was just a huge crush for talent. I was a pretty skilled power user that lucked up into a position working the help desk at a software vendor. I parlayed that into an opportunity to get my MCP, Microsoft Certified Professional certification, which led me eventually to this career. I eventually went back to school and got my undergrad in IT and a graduate degree in IT project management. But that was all made possible because I was able to use the opportunities throughout the Microsoft certification program to self-study, train, and eventually obtain the vendor-specific certifications that were appealing to the to that current job market. Today, what's appealing to the job market is people with certification skills, specifically the VCP, the VMware Certified Professional. So I'm pretty passionate about the ability for people who don't have the income, the means, and the corporate sponsorship to take the VMware specific course or specified course to obtain the VCP. If I was in the same situation today, making $20,000, $25,000 a year, trying to support a family of three or four, how in the world would I be able to afford to take the course and obtain my VCP and have access to this great opportunity? It's a great blog post. I've had a lot of active content, conversation around it. I believe that VMware most definitely is within their rights to have whatever requirement that they wish for their certification. I personally believe that VMware's VCP and certification program is probably a profit center for them. And as a publicly traded company, they have an obligation to their shareholders to make a profit. However, with that said, I wish they would just come out and say, you know what, the reason why we have the requirement is so that we can make money. As opposed to, I think, kind of the fluff around it has been that it's a way to maintain the integrity of the program. I think that's really, kind of a cop out. You know, you look at other certification programs. Microsoft most definitely suffered an image in the late 90s, early part of the 2000s when they started to churn out paper MCSEs and that certification lost its value in the marketplace. They eventually needed to rebrand. But you take a certification like the Cisco Certified Network Associate, CCNA, the CCNP, or the ultimate CCIE. Those are programs that are extremely respected within the industry and require no special classes to be taken in order to obtain those certifications. I think this is something that VMware can strive to become in their certification program, and I often wonder why they don't. So that's tonight's topics. Hope you enjoy these tech talks. I'm going to keep them coming. It was episode 4. Episode 5 will be on the 18th. You guys have a great night and see you next week.